Hello, on se retrouve aujourd'hui pour la suite de Vampyr. Donc, hop. Donc, hier j'ai commencé à faire mon streaming sur le jeu Vampyr. Et c'est pourquoi aujourd'hui j'ai décidé de poursuivre cette aventure puisque c'était plutôt pas mal. J'ai hâte de découvrir la suite. Donc du coup je me tâte aujourd'hui à continuer. Voilà, j'ai longuement hésité. Donc, hop. Voilà. Bon, voyons voir cette deuxième partie qui nous attend. Donc, ronde de nuit, on était resté là. Voilà. Donc je vous rappelle vaguement l'histoire. On s'est fait mordre. Nous sommes donc devenus un vampire et nous apprenons petit à petit à contrôler nos pouvoirs et nous avons décidé de rejoindre le professeur, un médecin dans un hôpital. Coucou Jessie, tu vas bien? Afin de l'aider puisque nous sommes nous-mêmes médecins. Voilà. Donc il s'est arrangé pour que nous puissions travailler que de nuit suite à notre condition de vampire. Ah tu as suivi, t'as pu rattraper un petit peu ou pas du tout? Ou est-ce que tu veux que je te refasse un petit débrief rapide? Sachant que bon, il s'est pas non plus passé grand chose. Ok. Alors là, du coup, voilà, je me suis arrêtée hier que j'allais commencer ma première nuit à l'hôpital. À l'hôpital, voilà. Donc, hop. Donc, elle, c'est Madame Crane.
Yes, Nurse Crane? How can I help you?
I'm so sorry. I know Dr. Swansea wanted you to rest, but we have somewhat of a crisis.
A crisis, you say?
Our supply of antiseptics is nearly depleted. I was hoping there was another box up here, but...
Sorry. There's nothing here.
Some of the patients won't last the night without them. Honestly, sir, I'm beside myself.
I may have a solution. In France, during the war, drugs shortage was a daily problem, and we had to use our wits to overcome the shortages.
However do you mean?
If combined correctly, certain household chemical products can be used in a pinch instead. Now, where's the hospital storeroom?
The storeroom? Fat chance. This is the Pembroke, and space is luxury we don't have. Everything used to be stored in the old morgue.
Perhaps I should look there first. Where is this morgue?
It's the large building behind the hospital. You'll need to go in the back door because it's been sealed off for sanitary reasons. Take this key. It opens a small back entrance at the end of a narrow street.
The abandoned morgue behind the hospital. A small door at the end of a narrow street. On my way then. Thank you, nurse.
Donc voilà, nous voilà repartis à la quête. Alors, attendez, je vais faire un petit tour. Voilà, parce qu'il y a des choses à récupérer.
It's locked.
Là, on ne peut pas. On ne peut pas, on ne peut pas. Donc, c'est verrouillé. Hop. Est-ce que par là, par hasard. Ah! Une scie usée, bien. Dossier médical. Parfait. Hop, là il y a des choses à récupérer. Parfait. Donc, poursuivons notre chemin. Donc oui, hein, je regarde un peu partout. Parce que comme j'ai pas fait le jeu, je ne connais pas, donc je préfère regarder partout parce qu'on peut vite se retrouver bloqué. On peut très vite se retrouver bloqué si on n'a pas les bons éléments. Et puis sinon pour toi Jessie, j'ai une bonne nouvelle. Normalement demain soir pendant le stream.
Perhaps I should have considered the offer from that Cadogan fellow.
Pendant le stream, je pourrais vous mettre en vocal. Normalement, ça marche. Alors, je suppose que... alors, ma carte... Yes, moi, il faut que j'aille ici. Donc, il faut que... Ah, pardon,
It's safer here than anywhere else in the
je
East.
pense que c'est par là. Non. Peut-être par là, alors. Yes. Alors, allons par là. Alors, grippe dégénère souvent en pneumonie. Pour éviter tout cas de grippe espagnole, restez chez vous. On dirait... on se croirait en pleine période Covid. C'est la grippe espagnole, nous c'est le Covid. Ah, 2 petites secondes, je mets sur pause, je reviens. Excusez-moi, les petits aléas de direct, hein, mais j'avais un numéro que je ne connaissais pas malheureusement qui m'appelait. Donc, je suppose que c'est par ici.
Scowl voices in the garden. I should investigate. If they were to find somebody.
Oui. Donc oui, de toute façon, il faut qu'on y aille, ça tombe très bien. Alors essayons de voir si par hasard avec nos dons de vampire on voit quelque chose ou pas. Ça n'a pas l'air. Donc allons voir. Où est-ce que je suis? C'est une bonne question. Là, je pense que c'est ça déjà. Yes. Ah bah mince, oh bah dis donc. Pardon, hein, je découvre un petit peu aussi. La première fois que vous avez été vaincu. Oh bah dis donc, c'est dommage. C'est dommage. Donc, recommençons. Hop, je vais prendre ça du coup dans ma gauche. Je vais reprendre ceci en attendant et voilà, il est là. C'est moins sympa. C'est un peu tendax. Hop. Alors, regardons un peu partout autour de nous. Ok, clavier vampirique, je vois toujours rien. Alors, je ne sais pas trop. Alors, si je vais par là, c'est pas par là. Hop, pardon. Je cherche encore un petit peu aussi. Hop, je pense que donc c'est par là. Faut que je fasse attention parce que du coup, je suppose qu'il va y avoir. Ouais, alors j'y suis. Je suppose qu'il va y avoir des ennemis. Donc là, j'y suis presque. Elle est là, la porte. Parfait. Hop. Donc en fait, ça se passe à Londres en plus. Donc pendant la grippe espagnole. Mais l'histoire est plutôt intéressante. Bon, après on cherche là pour le moment à se venger parce qu'on a tué notre sœur malheureusement. Au tout début, on a été transformés. Et je pense qu'au fil du temps, on va apprendre gérer notre part vampirique. Il y a du sang, ça c'est pas bon ça. Hop. Alors, je suppose que ça doit par là. Il n'y a pas d'ennemis, je vois pas de carte qui apparaît. J'aime bien parce que dans les endroits abandonnés, il y a quand même de la lumière. Il y a quand même de la lumière. M'a toujours fait un peu rire ça dans les jeux. Oula, il y a eu visiblement du passage. Hop. Donc oui, les fioles, je les récupère parce que du coup ça me permet de faire des prélèvements de sang, de l'étudier, etc. Alors par contre, j'ai plusieurs possibilités.
It's locked, all right.
C'est verrouillé, donc je peux aller là visiblement. Essayons d'aller voir par là. J'aime pas trop quand je vois pas trop la pièce en entier. Parce que j'ai joué à Resident Evil et c'était les spécialistes pour ça de pas te faire montrer les pièces en entier et on te bondit dessus. On te bondit dessus au moment où tu t'y attends pas du tout. Donc là il y a un étage. Donc essayons de retourner par là. Essayons c'est à l'intérieur de ce bâtiment. Je comprends pas trop. De toute façon, on va fouiller. Hein. Parce que si. Ah bah oui, il y a une ordre, j'avais pas vu. Oui, effectivement, c'est ça. L'atmosphère est un peu oppressante. Je me reconnais. Ah, regarde.
Balls of Mars. Fortifiers. As popular as they are ineffective. But they do contain iron tartrate, and that might prove itself useful.
Voilà. Si par hasard il n'y a pas d'autre chose, mais ça n'a pas l'air. Ok. Donc, oula. Alors, hop là. Ah mais non!
Behavior is similar to the infected William Bishop. Must be the same strain. This sickness moves faster than influenza. It's locked.
Quand c'est rocher que c'est fermé, là on peut rien faire. La bise. Ah. Un peu glauque. Un peu glauque. continuons à notre exploration. Donc, du coup, on a été ici, on a été ici. Hop, on va continuer en montant. Encore un autre là-bas.
This key will surely grant me access to the basement.
C'est la clé qu'il nous fallait. Parfait. C'est la clé qui nous manquait. Oh là là.
These skulls feed from corpses and the husks of animals. They're not after blood.
Ils sont cachés dans les coins plus sombres. Ah, je comprends, ma Jessie, il n'y a pas de souci, t'inquiète pas. T'inquiète pas. Tu pars quand tu as à partir, ma belle. Il n'y a pas de souci. C'est déjà sympa d'être avec moi. D'être avec moi, là. C'est agréable. Et ouais, j'ai eu les orages ce matin, moi. Mais en plus, c'est bien tombé. C'est bien tombé ce matin. J'en ai eu toute la nuit. Des orages. Bah, moi aussi, écoute, ça me fait plaisir de découvrir ça avec
It's
vous.
locked, all right.
Hop, une nouvelle arme. Couteau d'amputation usé. Alors, voyons ce qui... Alors, absorption de sang. Vous avez obtenu une nouvelle arme main gauche. Équipez-la et appuyez sur Y pour absorber directement du sang. Ah, ça c'est très pratique. Donc du coup, hop, c'est là mon personnage, c'est ça. Donc là, et... hop, du coup, très bien. Ça me va très très bien. Hop. Alors, investigation locale. Une nouvelle enquête sur les citoyens est disponible en appuyant pour ouvrir le menu d'investigation locale. Donc, très bien. Enquête sur les citoyens. C'est ici que vous pouvez consulter les enquêtes sur les citoyens triées par quartier. Vous pouvez démarrer une nouvelle mission de citoyen en la suivant avec X, puis en consultant votre carte pour afficher la zone à explorer. Très bien. Plus dur sera la chute. Trouver la cause de la mort. Ok, j'ai lu le rapport du docteur concernant la mort de Samuel Connor. Je ne suis pas encore totalement convaincue. Peut-être devrais-je mener ma propre enquête pour déterminer la véritable cause de la mort du patient. Très bien. Eh ben écoute, nous ferons.
Mr. Connor's injuries don't match the report. I'd better look into this.
Nous ferons ça, du coup. Nous irons jouer les enquêteurs. J'aime beaucoup ça. Ouais, j'ai deux choix. On va commencer par ça. Alors. Ensuite, ah bah d'accord, ça mène pas, ça menait pareil. Ok, donc là il n'y a rien. Désolée, hein, je regarde tout parce que... Ah, un boss.
These skulls can be so ferocious. I'm not sure I can defeat them without becoming stronger. To drink blood is so tempting.
Et ça, on va pas avoir le choix, je pense, à un moment donné. Nous allons devoir être beaucoup plus forts qu'eux, donc... Non. Je je ne peux pas monter. Merci Exodus pour le follow. Et bienvenue. Ah oui, j'avais bien que j'avais forcément un moyen d'y aller. Hop, ça. Merci monsieur, monsieur Tac Taf. Bon courage pour le travail. Bah écoute, oui, je le découvre, Exodus. Donc j'avais envie de le partager avec vous. Alors pour le moment, ouais, en fait on tue d'autres vampires en fait, c'est des squales et on leur et on doit les tuer, mais c'est vrai qu'on mord pas des masses, mais bon après il y a des compétences à déverrouiller. Donc échantillon de sang, donc déjà hop, analyser. Aussi, hop, voilà. Traitement pour le rhume, traitement pour la bronchite, traitement pour la pneumonie, voilà. Donc, du coup, j'ai récupéré ça. Hop, continuons.
Sodium hypochlorite. Dangerous to administer, but efficient in the proper dosage.
Ouais, c'était ça. Hop là. Donc, hop. Continuons notre exploration. Coco, Amayoki, tu vas bien? Il n'y a pas de souci, ma belle. Il n'y a pas de souci. Aucun problème. Ici, j'ai déjà été voir par là. J'ai encore des escaliers. Poil en rond là. J'ai là fabriquer un traitement pour la fatigue. Ok. On va voir ça de plus près. Alors, traitement pour la fatigue. Est-ce que c'est bon ou pas? Oui, ça a l'air, ok. Apporte les médicaments à Dorothée Crane dans la chambre du patient, d'accord, ok. Et là, qu'est-ce que j'ai? Refuge. Et là, à côté, c'est quoi? Il va pas me dire. Et donc, il y a une quête, mais courage, Yuki. Avec ton neveu, moi je profite de toi que mes enfants ne soient pas là. C'est gentil, ma Yuki. Donc voilà. Donc là j'ai fini cette quête. Oh oui, je profite. Des vilains pas beaux. J'en ai vu un là. Est-ce que c'était par là? Ah non, c'est où j'ai trouvé. Juste à côté. Bien calme. C'est bien calme. Alors, avis public, prévention de la grippe espagnole. Couvrez-vous la bouche d'un mouchoir pour tousser et éternuer. Marchez pour aller travailler. Ne crachez pas. Utilisez votre propre tasse pour boire. Évitez les foules. Si vous tombez malade, allez au lit et appelez un médecin. Comment fabriquer un masque? Prenez un morceau d'élasmine ordinaire de 40 cm sur 20 et pliez-le en un rectangle de 20 cm sur 20. Puis pliez-le à nouveau en un rectangle de 20 cm sur 10. Attachez des cotons d'environ 25 cm de chaque côté pour pouvoir l'attacher. Placez-le sur votre nez et votre bouche comme indiqué sur l'image, imprimé à la commission de santé du conseil du comté de Londres. Et ben dis donc, on dirait vraiment ce jeu pourrait être le Covid, ça. Vas-y Mayuki. Ce jeu pourrait vraiment être être comme Mayuki. Alors, quarantaine, grippe, veuillez ne pas pénétrer dans cette zone. Cet ordre de la commission de santé, agent de santé publique. Quarantaine, maladie contagieuse, entrer ou quitter la zone de quarantaine sans un ordre écrit. Les autorités sanitaires locales, personnes autorisées, modifier, détruire ou retirer cette carte. Ah bon, d'accord. C'est pas une alarme, c'est parce que j'ai reçu un appel sur sur Discord qui était branché, j'ai oublié de le débrancher de l'ordinateur. Pardon. Du coup, le problème c'est que quand je suis en jeu, je ne peux pas. Alors, photographie de portefeuille, dans un portefeuille. Un couple amoureux et souriant avec quelques mots inscrits au recto. Milton et Pippa pour toujours. Oh, c'est mignon. Alors, nouvelle enquête, milieu dans le jardin. Et donc encore une enquête. Ensuite. Je suis un peu perdue là. On va essayer d'aller par là. Je crois que c'est ça. Ouais, oui, c'est ça. Yes. Et bon, j'ai retrouvé mon chemin. Et c'est ça. J'ai vu ça. Ouais, j'ai vu ça. Donc c'est ça. C'est good. J'ai retrouvé mon chemin. Je m'étais perdue.
Is this supposed to be an hospital? A pigsty can smell better.
Alors, l'hôpital ne peut plus accepter de nouveaux patients à cause de l'épidémie de grippe. Hôpital complet, veuillez rentrer chez vous. Ok.
It's safer here than anywhere else in the East End.
Donc, je suppose que c'est par ici. Hop.
Good evening, nurse.
Good evening, Doctor. I don't think we've been introduced yet. My name is Pippa Hawkins.
And I'm Dr. Jonathan Reed. Dr. Swansea has recently offered me a position in this hospital.
Well, it's a euphemism that your help will be appreciated, Doctor.
Alors, quelle est votre situation ici?
How would you describe the situation at the Pembroke Hospital?
It's serious. The flu is wreaking havoc amongst the staff and patients. We are running out of everything.
Nurse Hawkins, the Spanish flu won't last forever. Even the Black Plague didn't kill everyone.
I wish I could believe you. But what if this epidemic was worse? What if in the end, nobody was spared?
Heureusement que...
You must get a hold of yourself, Nurse.
Sorry, I'm exhausted. No one has any idea when this epidemic will be over.
How long have you been a nurse?
Well, long enough to see that the epidemic is winning. And no matter how qualified you are, don't tell me you'll change that.
You'd be surprised what dedication can achieve, Nurse Hawkins. In medicine, sometimes we're just a test result away from a miracle.
Sorry, Doctor. I don't want to sound bitter, but I'm just too tired to give a pep talk like Nurse Brannigan.
How is the Pembroke staff coping with the epidemic?
Well, not well. Milton, the ambulance driver, is even more grumpy than usual, especially concerning doctors.
Why is Milton grumpy on a daily basis? Is it just an act?
Milton's not the kind of man who's bothered about a bad reputation, whether he deserved it or not.
Oh.
Why does Milton dislike doctors?
I don't know. Just ask him. But be warned, Milton is not the chatty type.
Hop. Ok.
Goodbye, Nurse Hawkins.
Est-ce que je suis... Alors, toi...
Good evening, miss. I'm Dr. Reed, the new surgeon at the Pembroke Hospital. And who are you?
Your name has no meaning to me, mortal. You're nothing but dust blown by the winds of eternity.
I beg your pardon?
What are you begging for, mortal? My clemency? Well, tonight maybe I'm inclined to mercy. You'll never forget the night you met Thelma Howcroft.
You keep calling me mortal. Why is that? And if I'm mortal, what are you?
Well, Dr. Reed, if you must know, I'm a vampire.
Moi, je suis un
And
vampire.
why do you believe you're a vampire?
I don't need to believe anything. It is what I am. It is what I feel within this hollow shell of flesh.
Please, describe to me how you feel. What is it like to be a vampire?
I can hear my body crumble from the inside as my flesh cracks and fades. I sense the last pulse of postulant blood within my drying veins. I need new blood.
I see. Have you ever heard of Cotard's syndrome, Miss Howcroft?
Never.
It's a mental illness discovered by a French neurologist named Jules Cotard. The affected patients are delusional. They believe that they are putrefying, that they are dead, a ghost or a ghoul, or in your case, a vampire.
Delusional, you say? Oh, sad and petty mortal. You can't even begin to understand the concept of immortality. And you think it is I who am delusional.
Disons que je sais des choses.
I'm assuming you must be a patient here. Am I right, Miss Howcroft?
It's only a cover. To hide from my enemies. I can leave whenever I want. As a woman, a spirit, fog, or bat.
Who are these enemies you mentioned? Can you describe them?
I cannot say for sure. But I sense their eyes on me from nearby. I feel them watching me every time I visit the garden near the morgue.
The staff here are not your enemy. They're here to help you, to care for you.
I'm not speaking of the doctors in white. I'm speaking of the men and women who hunt me, for I am a vampire.
I see. Don't worry. These people will not find you here. I'll personally make sure they leave you alone.
Thank you, mortal, but do not interfere with them, for you are no match for those that hunt me.
Who are you really, Miss Howcroft? I mean, apart from being a vampire.
Is that not enough for you, puny mortal? What do you require? Proof of my powers?
I'm curious to know who you were before becoming a vampire.
It was such a long time ago, I don't remember. Centuries of unholy life can have strange effects on one's minds, you see?
Pas faux.
I'll leave you, Mistress of the Dark, to your nocturnal activities.
Damn. The pain.
Good evening, sir. Can I help you?
Unless you're here to fix my face. No. I don't think you can help me.
I'm Dr. Reed. I've recently taken the position of head surgeon here. War injuries, am I right?
You guessed right, Doctor. German shell took my pretty little mug right off. But they still call me Thomas Elwood.
How is your stay with us, Mr. Elwood?
Oh, it's bliss. I just escaped death in the trenches to be surrounded again by the moans of the dying.
Can I ask you precisely why you're a patient here?
It's the pain, sir. The drugs don't work. It just hurts under the scars, if you get my drift.
Who is treating you? Is someone in particular looking after your case?
Nobody since the old and tired doctor spoke to me. Started to think I was forgotten about. Wouldn't blame you.
You don't seem worried by that.
My face hurts so much more when I smile or cry. I've learned it's easier not to speak. But be assured I'm smiling inside.
Can I do anything for your pain?
Nurses gave me a bunch of pills. No effect. I told you. It's like the flames are under my skin, burning away.
Tu m'étonnes, ça doit être atroce ça. Hop. Ça c'est bon, on n'a pas encore d'indice sur lui.
Where were you stationed, sir? Did you serve for long?
I really don't want to talk about all this shit.
No offense. I was pushing too much. I served in France myself. I just wanted to know what happened to you.
You were an officer, weren't you? Then I doubt we fought the same war, sir. No offense.
How close are you to Miss Hawcroft? Are you aware that she thinks she is a vampire?
To wait for her next nibble is the best reason to stay here. Every time she approaches my bed, she treats me like something tasty. A normal person.
Aren't you afraid? She may hurt you if the game goes too far.
She's quite harmless, I can assure you. Her head's broken inside is all. While I'm busted on the outside. But she's still beautiful. Living proof that there's hope for me.
So do you let her bite you? You know that's not sanitary.
And why not? She's only supping a few drops of my blood. And the pain, it's real for once.
She could decide to bite less willing patients.
Then it's another good reason for me to stay here, Doctor.
You do realize she's mentally disturbed. It's called the Cotard syndrome. She truly believes she's a vampire.
In her madness, she never refers to my scars. And frankly, if I could, I'd join her world. It seems much more fun than the real one.
Je sais pas pourquoi, mais lui, je sens bien qu'on va... On risque de le...
Goodbye for now, Mr. Elwood.
On risque de l'aider en le mordant.
Damn. The pain.
Hop, essayons de la... qu'on arrive.
Good evening, Miss Howcroft. How are you tonight?
I need blood, Doctor. Warm, rich, vibrant blood.
Alors, hop.
Tell me, Thelma, why do you feel so attached to Mr. Elwood? Why him?
I'm not sure, Doctor. I think we have a bond of some sort. We've both suffered so much. He's the only mortal I find interesting.
Do you plan to make him a vampire too?
Of course not. How could I inflict my curse on anybody else? I'm not that cruel, Doctor.
Would you say you and Mr. Elwood are romantically involved?
No. No, Thomas is a delicate soul. Even though he disguises it. But I am not the woman he needs. No, for I am a vampire, Doctor.
Donc on a encore des choses à prendre.
I'll leave you, Mistress of the Dark, to your nocturnal activities.
Time has lost its effect on me. The
But the
giant
suffering
man
continues.
disguised as a hospital.
Alors, de l'utilisation de l'ail et des puits en bois. Mes chers frères, je dois désormais attirer votre attention sur un point très important, l'utilisation de l'ail comme protection contre les vampires. Mettons-nous tout de suite les choses au clair. L'ail ne vous protégera jamais contre ces créatures, peu importe sa fraîcheur, sa puissance ou son odeur. L'ail est complètement inutile en tant que moyen de défense. Le roman de Bram Stoker a connu des dégâts incroyables sur les croyances populaires. Oui, bien évidemment, les peuples savent d'Europe de l'Est mettent ces gousses d'ail dans leur cercueil. Bien évidemment, les habitants de l'île de Sotorin en accrochent à leurs fenêtres. Il y aurait beaucoup de choses à dire sur cette île et j'espère qu'un jour y retourner afin de pouvoir étudier plus avant leurs traditions occultes. Mais l'ail n'est pas là pour protéger les vivants du mal, il est là pour dire aux morts que les vivants ont conscience de leur malfaisance. C'est un symbole et rien de plus. Alors je vous prie, mes frères, allez-y, montrez fièrement votre ail, accrochez-en autour de vous, portez-en sur vous et affirmez aux forces des ombres que vous n'avez pas peur. Mais si vous cherchez une protection contre les surnaturels, vous devez creuser beaucoup plus profondément dans les secrets occultes. Car voici la vérité, mes chers frères, l'ail ne repousse pas les vampires, mais toutes les plantes fraîches peuvent leur faire du mal. C'est comme si leur corps ne pouvait pas supporter la présence d'éléments botaniques. J'ai vu un vulve enragé prendre ses jambes à son cou après avoir été frappé par une rose. Oui, vous avez bien lu, une simple rose. J'ai vu un écone déchaîné s'enrouler et demander grâce après avoir été frappé par un pieu en bois. Je ne sais pas pourquoi la fleur est aussi efficace. Et je ne serais prêt à donner mon bras gauche pour découvrir, mais les faits sont bel et bien là. Les vampires sont très sensibles aux herbes, plantes et morceaux de bois frais, issus de affronter les ombres. Comment y pouvoir? Ok, de la confrérie. Tiens, bizarre. Donc, hop, ça là, il n'y a rien. Là, il n'y a rien. Et là, lui, c'est notre petit rescapé qu'on a sauvé
Good
de
evening,
William
Mr.
hier.
Hampton. How do you feel?
Dr. Reed, is it? Oh, Sora, I must apologize for my behavior.
What do you mean?
I was not myself in the factory. Fear and exhaustion made me say awful things to you, I'm afraid.
You remained perfectly nice and polite. A little delirious, perhaps. But who wouldn't be after enduring an abduction?
Thank you, Doctor. That's a relief.
Pourtant,
Now all I need to do is
il est
rest
bien-
and return to my flock.
Il est bien réglé pourtant, non? Tu m'entends, Jessie, ou pas du tout?
Do you know Tom Watts, the bartender from the Turtle? I met him before I found you in the canning factory.
Ouais, tu
Tom?
m'entends?
Yes,
C'est
of
toi,
course.
Mayuki.
Always the helping hand,
Je
good
suis
old Tom.
désolée.
Without men like him, corruption and despair would have wiped out the East End long ago.
Attends 2 secondes. Est-ce que si je baisse un petit peu là... petit peu là. Est-ce que c'est mieux, Yuki? Hop, j'ai mis un petit peu moins fort. Voilà.
People are still in despair.
How could it be otherwise? The authorities have left us all to rot in this contagious nightmare. No drugs, no advice, nothing. It's a damn shame.
C'est pas grave, Yuki, c'est pas grave. Je voulais être sûre que
Who
ça
should
marchait
I
bien,
avoid
surtout.
in this part of
C'est
town?
surtout ça qui me...
Any particularly evil figures?
Not really. Most men and women are just doing their best. And it's not my habit to speak ill of people I know, Doctor.
Ouais, j'ai baissé un petit peu le son du jeu. Votre présence.
What is the general situation in the East End docks?
The situation has always been tough, with a lot of tensions between the gangs and the Dockers Trade Union. The Wet Boot Boys are very nervous since they lost their
Merci
leader.
Jessie d'être passée et je te fais des gros bisous et bon courage pour cette fin d'après-midi. Et puis on se retrouve demain pour demain soir pour le stream. Voilà. Bisous bisous ma belle.
Has the gang been threatening you?
Ah, no. I've had this nickname for so long, you know, the sad saint of the East End.
Oh,
No one dares to
bon
book a
courage
saint,
Yuki.
not even criminals.
Mais demain soir aussi il y aura.
Who leads the gang now?
Since Clay Cox went missing, it's his wife Edwina who runs the show, with the assistance of her minion, Booth Digby.
How did you end up in William Bishop's den?
I had received alarming news about his recent behavior. I went to his place and he refused to let me go.
Why did he abduct you?
William was an alcoholic. His addiction suddenly changed to blood. I don't know why. Just like a patient I met here, this Miss Hawcroft.
Oh, donc il serait vraiment un vampire.
You dared to enter this awful place alone. You're a hero, Mr. Hampton. Or a fool.
I'm just a man trying to help his friends, Dr. Reed. William Bishop was a conflicted soul, searching for light.
Have you made friends since you arrived?
Not really, but I recognized Miss Harriet Jones. I knew her when she lived by the docks. That poor woman had such a miserable life.
You never came to see her here at Pembroke. Receiving visits when sick can be an important part of the healing process, you know. We're not just bodies.
You're preaching to the converted now, Doctor. To be truly honest, I thought she was dead. She left the docks many months ago.
What do you do for a living, Mr. Hampton? I can't help but notice the cross around your neck.
I manage a night asylum for the poor and homeless of the docks, and I try to guide the lost and hesitant on the right path to our Lord.
Are you a priest, Mr. Hampton? A deacon, maybe?
Not at all, Doctor. I'm just a man of faith willing to preach the good word.
Why didn't you use your cross against William Bishop? To repel him somehow?
That's a very strange question, Doctor. A cross is no magical token, if that's what you were trying to say. Not mine, anyway.
How do you feel, Mr. Hampton? Medically speaking, I mean.
I feel exhausted. Beyond exhaustion, actually. William drank so much of my blood in his madness. I feel empty.
You're in good hands here. Dr. Swansea is well versed in blood transfusion, and I'm sure he'll take the best care of you.
Thank you, sir. I believe all I need is rest, and then I can go back to the people who need me.
Goodbye, Mr. Hampton. We'll talk again later.
So many deaths. And what of my own life?
The pain. It's here again. Time has lost its effect on me, but the suffering continues.
Good evening, Nurse Hawkins.
Good evening, Dr. Reed.
Goodbye, Nurse Hawkins.
Et j'ai pas d'autre. Je peux pas parler. Elle, je peux pas parler. Ok. Bon, alors essayons d'aller voir Miss machin là. Miss Crane. Alors, au nom des miséricordieux, il compte sur vous. On cherche des infirmières. Ah bah oui. Toujours. Donc, je crois que c'est par là. Yes, ça a l'air d'être par ici.
It's locked, all right.
Alors, docteur Trippet, serait ok. Est-ce que c'est pas là, donc ça doit être à l'étage. Encore, c'est ça? Ou là, peut-être? Non. No. No. Est-ce que ça peut bien être? Ah bah oui, regardez, encore un étage par là. Mais ça ne donne nulle part, ok. Ensuite, là j'en viens, je me dis. Et là, si je fais par là. C'est fermé par là aussi. Là aussi c'est fermé. Là j'en viens. Ici c'est chez moi donc. Est-ce que c'est en bas du coup? Ça a l'air d'être en bas du coup. Là c'est chez moi. Alors essayons en bas du coup. Je vois que ça. Oh ma pauvre chérie. Un bon courage ma belle. Mais tu vas très bien t'en sortir, moi je le sais. Il va être très beau ton dessin. Par là du coup. Bah non, c'est pas par là non plus. Pardon. Je suis encore trompée. Non, c'est pas par là. Oh là là, je suis paumée là. Parce que du coup, il y a un truc.
It's locked.
C'est verrouillé. Yes, ça a l'air d'être là. Quelque part par là.
How long must I wait, damn it? Blaming me will not further your agenda.
Good evening, Doctor. I believe we're going to be working together.
Dr. Reed. Dr. Swansea informed us of your arrival, but I could not dare to believe we'd have such good fortune. Such an honor, sir.
Thank you. And you are?
I am Thoreau Strickland, Dr. Thoreau Strickland. I'm a great admirer of your work, Dr. Reed.
Please, could you tell me something about yourself?
I'm a great admirer of your work concerning blood transfusion, Dr. Reed. I run my own experiments. I'm convinced it's the future.
What made you choose to be a doctor?
I'm not ashamed to admit you and your work have inspired me. I am honored to have the opportunity to work by your side.
It's always a pleasure to share scientific and medical knowledge with someone eager to learn. I'll be glad to help you if I can.
This epidemic may be the century's most terrible disaster, but I'm convinced that we, as doctors, are the only ones able to defeat it.
I based my technique on my mentor's research. He helped me perfect my method. What is yours?
I'd rather not talk about it. For now, it's just theories and first approach. My process is purely experimental and unsuccessful.
As long as you're cautious and methodical, you may remain empty-handed, but you won't fail.
You're not the first one to warn me. but I am convinced knowledge is the main weapon against the ravages of this epidemic.
D'accord, hop.
What can you tell me about the Pembroke?
Well, it has always been an honor to work with Dr. Swansea. But with your arrival, I can't think of a better opportunity to learn about blood transfusion.
You seem quite optimistic. It's a rare and precious attitude in these difficult times.
I'm convinced that this epidemic is a test of endurance and dedication for us men of science.
Questions remain about our capacity to resolve the situation.
True. Last summer, during the first wave of the epidemic, I used to joke with Milton about the extra work. We're not smiling now.
Do you need help with anything in particular?
Well, yes, maybe. I'm waiting for a batch of products I ordered for my personal research, yet my supplier seems to have vanished.
Do you want me to play the errand boy for you?
Oh no, Dr. Reed. But if you went personally to his shop, what with your reputation and all, he wouldn't dare to refuse the products I need.
I see. Well, give me the address, for I may pass by if I have time.
Nouvelle enquête, ok.
Tell me more about your willingness to experiment with new medical techniques.
Harvey Fiddick is a patient suffering from a severe injury that could cripple him if not treated correctly. I'm convinced your blood transfusion technique could help him.
What is it you really want? To save him? Or to prove your point?
Fair question. I want nothing but to save my patient, Dr. Reed. Especially since I know Mr. Fiddick's story.
Tell me Mr. Fiddick's story.
Our first diagnosis was compromised because Mr. Fiddick lied to us about the real origin of his injury. He first claimed it was an accident.
But why would he hide such crucial information from us?
Because he is a proud father, ashamed of putting his children at risk because of his own negligence.
This personal involvement could also appear to be a lack of impartiality. You must know that a good surgeon must remain neutral.
I agree. But that does not excuse Dr. Ackroyd's behavior, a man who did not even take time to converse with his patient.
Do you think keeping his distance was a mistake?
All I know is that I'm taking care of human beings with desires, hopes, and fears. Not some biological machine comprised of blood, bones, and flesh.
Ok. Bah, écoute.
Goodbye, Dr. Strickland.
Ensuite. Alors,
Good evening, sir. I'm Dr. Reed. May I help you?
I don't know if a third opinion is needed. Your colleagues are already arguing about my condition.
I see. Would you mind telling me more about your situation?
I'm Harvey Fiddick. All I want is to get me bloody arm fixed properly.
Tell me about yourself, Mr. Fiddick.
I'm just a regular guy waiting to get his arm fixed, so I can return to work and to my family.
I was more curious about what you were doing before being hospitalized.
I'm a carpenter, and a good one too. But that means I need both arms to feed my family, Dr. Reed.
Tell me about the doctors who are arguing about your case.
Strickland and Ackroyd. They both want the best for me, but there's a lot of pride there. Doctors are no different from carpenters, it seems.
What do you mean?
I often had professional arguments with rivals on a building site. Difference is I disagreed about wooden nails, not flesh and bones.
Are you satisfied with your treatment here?
Well, it's clear that I've chosen a bad time to be injured. Forgive my bluntness, but you seem overwhelmed by cases of the flu.
I won't lie to you about it. I'm afraid we are.
Are you sure you don't want to operate yourself, Dr. Reed? I have the feeling you're very capable. And your colleagues seem to think so too.
In other circumstances, you would be right. But for now, I don't think I can take on the responsibility. My apologies. Tell me about your injury, Harvey. Why do you feel so guilty about it?
My wife died because of me. And now I may lose everything because I've been careless enough to hurt myself. What an arsehole.
non.
How could your job be responsible for your wife's death?
I was working a double. She went out to bring me a hot meal and got caught in a German bomb raid.
Oh, c'est triste.
You can't hold yourself responsible for your injury, Mr. Fiddick. Unless you tried to hurt yourself.
Of course I didn't hurt myself. But I can't work until my arm is fixed. My children need to eat, Doctor.
Tell me more about the death of your wife, Harvey.
1915. I was in the army. Building workshops for the Royal Flying Corps. Helen was happy I wasn't sent to the front.
What happened?
The Germans sent Zeppelins to bomb the construction site, but they missed their target. My wife was bringing my dinner when the bombs fell.
I'm sorry for your loss. So many died during the bombings. I served in France and witnessed the carnage there.
I would like to say that she didn't suffer. Truth is, I have no idea. I just know that I'm all that me kids have. Poor little bleeders.
How are your children after losing their mother?
They were smaller then. The only good thing about this is my Helen didn't bring them with her that night.
Goodbye for now, Mr. Fiddick. I'll see you later.
You always knew the words to calm the children, Helen. As for me, what a blundering idiot.
Lettre inachevée, ok. Donc je suppose qu'il faut que j'aille la lire. Mais c'est pas grave. Non. Je ne sais pas.
My sweet girl reads me like a book. Never could keep anything from her.
Good evening, sir. Doctor.
Finally, you've returned, Doctor. Did you find anything of value?
Yes, nurse.
You've worked your first miracle, Doctor. Now, this patient here needs immediate treatment.
Duty calls. When the storm has passed, I'll show you how to mix the remedy yourself with the same basic ingredients.
Many thanks, Doctor. When you've finished, you ought to report to Dr. Swansea in his office. He's been looking for you. Seemed pressing.
Alors, maladie. Les maladies font baisser la qualité du sang des citoyens. Soignez-les avec les bons médicaments. Parlez aux patients dans la pièce située derrière Dorothy pour voir son état de santé. Un corbeau à l'hôpital.
You always knew the words to calm the children, Helen. As for me, what a blundering idiot.
Alors,
Good evening. I'm Dr. Reed. Can I help at all?
No,
Really? Why are you here then?
I don't want to talk. My throat hurts too much.
I suppose that this pain is the reason you're here. Is someone taking care of you?
Yes. And no.
Could you at least tell me your name, sir?
Mortimer. Mortimer Goswick.
alors, maladie RB pour voir l'état de santé du citoyen. Soigner un citoyen améliore sa qualité, ainsi que la situation sanitaire carcérale.
Do you need any help?
I'm afraid I may, sir. I don't mean to be a burden.
You are not a burden, sir. Healing you is my responsibility.
And you have my gratitude for that.
Question personnelle.
How painful is your throat, Mr. Goswick?
So painful I'd rather not talk at all, Doctor.
I'm sure you realize a doctor and his patient have to communicate, sir. Would it help if I gave you some paper and a pen?
Not really.
I see. Then maybe it's not just your throat that hurts, Mr. Goswick. Perhaps your sore throat is just the consequence of something more hurtful.
Yes, maybe. But I don't want to talk or even write about it now.
D'accord. Attends, qui peut pas pour le moment. Donc on a dit...
Do you need any help?
Thank you, Dr. Reed, but you've done enough already. The rest is up to me now.
Ok, RT. Il est en récupération.
I have to go now, sir. But don't hesitate to contact me if you need any help.
Don't waste your time with me.
Qu'est-ce que c'est que ça?
Good evening, madam. Can I help you?
It's my son who needs you, sir.
I'm Dr. Jonathan Reed. How can I help your son?
I'm Beatrice Goswick, mother of Mortimer Goswick. Could you check on him, please, Dr. Reed? I've heard much of your talents as a physician.
What can you tell me about yourself, Mrs. Goswick?
Not much to say. Just take care of my Mortimer and I'll cover all the expenses. That's all that matters.
May I ask if you have an occupation, Mrs. Goswick?
I'm a teacher by profession. I teach young women who are more ambitious about their futures than their families.
Are you really that rich? Most of the patients here are of a more humble origin, if I may say so.
Yes, thanks to my husband. May he rest in peace. I can cover any needed medical expenses.
What do you think of your reception here? Any complaints?
I have had the uttermost reservations about this hospital since we arrived. But we had no other choice, considering the state of emergency.
Is there something in particular that's bothering you?
Some of the staff were not especially welcoming. I suspect they're not accustomed to dealing with patients of such social standing.
Tell me more about your arrival at the Pembroke Hospital. What gave you such a bad first impression?
The ambulance driver was quite rude, for a start. And that nurse, Miss Hawkins, seems to have quite a dubious attitude.
What do you mean?
She managed to secure a bed for my son despite the epidemic. It was a relief, but it wasn't cheap.
I share your concern, Mrs. Goswick. Be sure that I'll talk to the people involved.
I don't expect compensation, Dr. Reed. But I'm aware such behavior would not be tolerated in other hospitals.
She charged you for a bed?
Yes, and I paid without question, considering the urgency of the situation.
Intéressant.
Goodbye, Mrs. Goswick.
I'm all right. Don't waste your time with me.
Good evening, Mr. Goswick. How are you?
I'm okay.
Why did your mother have you hospitalized here? She seems convinced this is a bad hospital.
My mother just wants the best for me. She won't rest while I'm here. She'd go all the way to hell and back to help me.
Is your mother bothering you? As your doctor, I can ask her to leave you alone if you would prefer.
That's tempting, Doctor. But you have no idea what my mother is capable of. She would tie herself to my bed if you asked her to leave.
Pembroke Hospital may look unorthodox, but rest assured you're in good hands here.
It's not me you have to convince, Dr. Reed. It's my mother.
How painful is your throat, Mr. Goswick?
So painful I'd rather not talk at all, Doctor.
I'll let you get some rest, then.
Right. Don't waste your time with me.
So many deaths.
Alors, soif de sang. N'oubliez pas que le sang des citoyens vous apporte énormément d'expérience. Cherchez les citoyens ayant un niveau de charme inférieur ou égal au vôtre et faites le bon choix. Je fais comment pour savoir ça? Elle, du coup, je vais lui reparler.
Good evening, Nurse Hawkins.
Good evening, Dr. Reed.
Question personnelle. No. Non plus.
Goodbye, Nurse Hawkins.
Pourtant, après des trucs sur elle, là. Bon, je vais essayer déjà de monter. Voilà. Je vais retourner à ma chambre. De toute façon, je vais pas tarder. Je vais pas devoir tarder à arrêter. Un petit peu plus avancé, mais là aujourd'hui, ça me met un peu plus de temps. Déjà, je voudrais voir ça.
The flower's dying. It needs water.
Ça serait bien que tu y en... Ça serait peut-être bien que tu y en donnes de l'eau. Il s'agirait. Donc hop. Ça je vais pouvoir augmenter. Donc morsure, on va essayer celle-ci du coup, ce coup-ci. Augmente la quantité de dégâts infligés. Parfait. Hop. Très bien. Je regarde déjà s'il n'y a pas autre chose. Science. Réserve de munitions, sacoche médicale, je m'en fiche un petit peu. Soit augmente la quantité de sang absorbé lorsque vous utilisez morsure au combat. Hop, déjà ça aussi on peut l'augmenter, du coup ça serait cool. Voilà. Hop. Ensuite ça augmente votre endurance. Pas forcément, ça va m'aider ça aussi. Augmenter mon endurance, ok. Ensuite, charge, voile d'ombre. Endurance 5, utilise. Alors, vous pouvez utiliser votre endurance pour vous fondre dans les ombres et devenir invisible pour la plupart des ennemis. Ok, et ça. Ouais, ça je préfère. Donc ça. Et donc là, confirmer. Hop. Déjà je suis passée au niveau 7, c'est déjà pas mal. Alors, événement majeur dans le quartier. Chaque nuit, les conséquences de vos actes peuvent améliorer ou dégrader la situation sanitaire du quartier. Celle-ci peut aussi se détériorer si les maladies se propagent parmi les citoyens. Les éléments majeurs dans le quartier. Alors, plus vous tuez de citoyens, plus un quartier deviendra insalubre. Et si la situation sanitaire d'un quartier tombe sous le seuil critique, ce quartier plongera dans le chaos. N'importe quel chaos des décideurs du quartier. Très bien. Traitement pour la fatigue. Il faut que je le traite du coup aussi. Allez, je vais pas le tuer hein, du coup. Il me manque un truc. Oups, d'autres trucs. Ça a l'air d'être satisfaisant. aller à Edgar. Ok, je sais pas trop où il est. C'est ça. Hop, ça c'est son bureau du coup, très bien.
Please, Jonathan, come in. Fascinating, is it not? In the last decade, so many mysteries have been brought to light with our microscopes. The human body, biology's penultimate frontier. The more we explore its boundaries, the less we're able to trace a clear line between life and death. You, my friend, have a foot in both countries. The view must be vertiginous.
It's at least as vertiginous as chatting about vampires with you, I would say.
This must be all so new to you. This area of town, the hospital, a brand new life. How stimulating it must be.
I wish I could share your enthusiasm, Dr. Swansea. But my condition defies scientific categorization. Undead? Unalive? Immortality defies logic.
I cannot express my thrill at this serendipitous turn of events. The world's most eminent specialist in blood transfusions, a vampire. One might say a gift from heaven.
It may seem strange, but your words have brought me some comfort here.
Forgive me. I've been an admirer of your work for a long time, and now you are so much more than a brilliant physician. And please, call me Edgar.
There is no need to apologize, Edgar. You offered me sanctuary when I had none.
Very well. I have a task for you, Jonathan. Something that will require all your newfound skills.
Please, go on.
The Pembroke only survives through the generosity of our benefactors. Unfortunately, our main donor has found herself in a bit of a bind. Now, if you could help her out...
A spokesman or politician is what you need. That's not my calling. And until I come to understand what has happened to me, I require discretion.
Discretion is in order, Jonathan. Lady Ashbury has recently received rather indelicate correspondence that, if revealed, would jeopardize her position.
And you would like me to eradicate this threat?
By the stole, of course not. I would just like you to pay her a visit. Her ladyship is certainly near the tents outside, tending the sick. You can't miss her. Look for someone impossibly delicate.
Accepted. I'll see what kind of trouble Lady Ashbury is in.
Do you need something, Jonathan?
I have just a few questions.
Then ask away. I'm at your service, Doctor.
You mentioned something about a secret society. A brotherhood, if I recall. Could you elaborate?
Certainly. I've been a member of the Brotherhood of St. Paul's Stole for several years. We are pledged to monitor and report vampire activity in England as impartial scientific observers.
Yet you don't fear me. And still, you know the monster that lurks beneath the civilized surface.
The Brotherhood has studied your kind for centuries. We believe you are as supernatural as a lion is to a gazelle.
That explains your nightly wanderings about the docks and the questions you ask.
I feel it wasn't mere coincidence that led us to that part of town. There was something as yet unseen that set those chain of events in motion.
Since I'm the one working for you, what should I know about Pembroke Hospital?
Well, for many years, we have been the only medical facility in this part of town that people can rely on. We support the community here, as well as provide health care.
Where do we stand today?
Oh, to be honest, we cope on a day-to-day basis. The first wave of the Spanish flu last summer took us by surprise. We lack many of the basic necessities needed.
What do you expect of me?
What we need is hope. You were a soldier. This is a war. This white coat's still a uniform. We fight to help the poor, the sick of the East End, the forgotten.
Since you seem quite the expert on vampires, what could you tell me about my condition and how it came about?
As men of science, our first step is always to start with what we know. Forget the myths, the hackneyed scrawlings, and the penny dreadfuls. They do not scratch the surface of the truth you now find yourself in.
Must I take a life to live?
You are a vampire. You feed, and blood is the sole sustenance that can sustain your immortal frame. And only a living creature contains the nourishment you require.
The sun. The morning following my transformation. Its rays burned me. There was pain, smoke, and my skin blackened.
You will find there is very little that can kill a vampire, my friend. You have been offered relative immortality. The sun will most certainly hurt you, leaving you weakened and damaged, but it will not destroy you.
Oui, ça on l'avait lu, hein, qui ne nous tuerait pas. Ça nous dessèche, mais on est capable de se reconstituer dès que le soleil disparaît.
The man we pursued and slew in the canning factory,
Coucou,
William
Rose.
Bishop, I believe, was he a vampire?
T'es en pause.
He was a skull, technically speaking.
T'es en pause récré.
The debate
c'est ça?
rages as to their classification. Some think them a subspecies of vampire, others something else.
How do skulls come into existence?
The name means slave. The etymology may indicate that they are a lesser species of vampire. From what I know, vampires tend to despise them.
Just for clarity, what differences are there between myself and a skull?
A skull is easier to eliminate, Jonathan, even if they remain formidable foes for the unprepared. Vampires... Now, vampires exist beyond the mortal realm.
We'll see each other again soon, Edgar.
Lettre de mise en garde, détail. Alors. Cher Edgar, cette lettre n'est pas destinée au directeur mais à mon vieil ami. J'ai à mon corps convenu il y a 2 jours concernant la possibilité pour notre cher collègue, poste de chirurgien. Ouais. Voilà. Alors. Mes chers enfants, je suis désolée de ne pas avoir pu vous écrire avant, mais écrire me fait un mal de chien. Ne quittez pas, papa va sortir de l'hôpital dès que le médecin aura soigné son bras. D'ici là, si jamais vous avez besoin de quoi que ce soit, allez voir Mister Shinfei et dites-lui que vous êtes les enfants de Linda. Vous vous souvenez de Robert Shackwick? C'est le grand moustachu qui m'a aidé à porter de la maison au printemps dernier. Allez le voir et demandez-lui un peu d'argent. Il pourra pas vous le refuser. Je suis désolée de ne pas pouvoir être en état d'aller au travail pour l'instant. Nous retrouverons une solution quand je serai sortie. Ah, c'est triste. Ah d'accord, ok, c'est là. Ok, bah, du coup c'est bon à savoir. Ça se trouve là. Nouvel indice, bah oui forcément. Hop. Un nouvel indice aussi sur lui. Est-ce qu'il y a d'autres... Est-ce qu'il y a d'autres choses à récupérer? Lettre. 4 août, cher docteur, c'est avec plaisir que je m'occuperai de la morgue temporaire dès l'instant où elle sera ouverte. Ok. On racontera sa vie un autre jour. J'ai beaucoup de choses à faire. On ira plus tard. Mais... ça c'est bon, c'est récupéré d'ailleurs. Pourquoi? Donc ça c'est bon. Là il y a une autre porte. C'est bon, on a fait le tour, visiblement le tour réclame. Voilà. Nouvel objet à collectionner. Les espèces rares de vampires. Ok. Bon, ça, de toute façon, il vient de nous en parler. Donc, de toute façon, ça ne change pas grand chose. Hop. Allez, hop. Bon courage, ma Rose. Et bisous.
It's locked.
Déjà on va faire ça et puis on va faire ça aussi. Donc ok. Et là du coup si je veux aller par là, je peux sortir par là. Ok. Ok. Petit coin en fait pour sortir. Donc ça c'est bon, j'ai tout récupéré ici. Je vais essayer d'aller rapidement. Descendre. Alors, essayons de parler. Je récupère tout ça.
Good evening, Dr. Strickland. And good evening to you, Dr. Reed. Can I be of any help?
Have you heard any talk of blackmail going on in the hospital?
If you're running some official inquiry, you had better question the patients. They know more than the staff, especially old Miss Jones.
Tell me, Thoreau,
What's the real cause of your dislike for Dr. Ackroyd?
He refuses to admit that your blood transfusion technique is the only way to save Mr. Fiddick. I'm convinced we must use it.
What Dr. Ackroyd really said is that you lack the skill to perform this operation efficiently. Is there anything you have to say about this?
It's a false conceit. Dr. Ackroyd secretly envies your reputation. His jealousy blinds him. I'm not the real target here.
Okay.
Goodbye, Dr. Strickland. Good evening, Mr. Fiddick.
Good evening, Dr. Reed. Any news about my operation?
Have you heard talk of any blackmail here at the hospital?
No, nothing.
You seem worried about the safety of your family. And it's obviously the reason why your wound troubles you so much.
I cannot give up on my children now. They both need me living.
What about their mother, if I may ask?
She died in 1915 during one of the first Zeppelin raids. We never found her body.
Goodbye for now, Mr. Fiddick. I'll see you later.
I will not let you down, my boy.
Good evening, Doctor. How is my son doing?
Have you heard rumors of blackmail going on in this hospital?
Dr. Reed, are you trying to take advantage of me?
Of course not, Mrs. Goswick. I'm just curious.
Well, go be curious somewhere else, please.
Bien, bah écoute, merci bien.
Goodbye,
De m'envoyer gentiment péter. Chut.
Good evening, Mr. Goswick. How are you?
I'm okay.
Tell me about yourself, Mr. Goswick.
I don't want to talk, Doctor.
Have you heard rumors about blackmail in this hospital?
No.
How painful is your throat, Mr. Goswick?
So painful, I'd rather not talk at all, Doctor.
Bonne santé, pourtant je comprends pas. Charmé visiblement. Et je le charmais pour quoi faire? Ça sert à rien. Hop, bon, et du coup.
I have to go now, sir. But don't hesitate to contact me if you need any help.
Good evening, sir. Doctor.
You always knew the words to calm the children, Helen. As for me...
Cherchons Madame... Madame, je sais plus comment elle s'appelle, elle.
I will not let you down, my boy.
Dr. Reed, may I help you?
What can you tell me about our patients here at Pembroke?
This hospital was founded to help the East End poor and needy. But since the war and the quarantine, we've had all manner of folk.
Can you be more specific?
Well, veterans, the elderly, dock workers. We even have a few mental patients. If there's space, we take them.
What can you tell me about the epidemic, Nurse Crane? I've been out of touch since I've come back to England.
Everyday folk don't know how bad it is. The papers certainly won't tell them. Not as long as the war is raging on, anyway.
News on the front stated that the Spanish flu was under control, at least in Britain.
It seemed to be for a while, but that was only last summer. It returned with a vengeance just over a month ago.
Well, Dr. Swansea certainly has confidence in your abilities. Are you in charge of the nursing staff?
Not in an official capacity, but the Pembroke doesn't always work above board, so to speak.
What about medical protocols?
Dr. Reed, we don't have the money and resources here at the Pembroke like they do in the West End. We do what we can.
For how long have you been working here, Nurse Crane?
I first volunteered at the Pembroke in 1911, a few months after Dr. Swansea was appointed.
And before you arrived here?
If you must know, this was my first job.
Well, Dr. Swansea certainly has confidence in your abilities. Are you in charge of the nursing staff?
Not in an official capacity, but the Pembroke doesn't always work above board, so to speak.
How is the duty roster organized?
Everybody works until they can't. If there's time, they'll eat a meal and shed a silent tear.
I'll see you later, Nurse Crane. Good evening, sir. I'm Dr. Reed. I believe we're going to be colleagues.
Reed? Yes, I've been informed about your arrival. I'm Waverly Ackroyd. Welcome aboard, I suppose.
Does my arrival inconvenience you in some way, Dr. Ackroyd?
Let us just say that I don't particularly share Dr. Swansea's enthusiasm for hiring you. What we need here are reliable professionals, not overrated dabblers.
Have you heard about any blackmail going on in this hospital?
Blackmail? Nonsense.
If you have a problem with me, Dr. Ackroyd, please feel free to tell me.
Dr. Swansea has imposed your presence on this hospital without asking anyone's advice. The benefit of his position. But I don't agree with it.
I know we've never met before, but I believe this hospital could use all the help it can get. You will agree with that, I'm sure.
Oh, but I have heard about you, Dr. Reed. Of course, you can't say the same about me, since I have not wasted my time courting the press.
There is no need for such animosity between us. Don't you think the epidemic is already enough to deal with?
That is one point we could agree on. And that is precisely why I want to be sure that you will be of help to this hospital, instead of a burden.
Tell me, Waverly, what do you think of Dr. Strickland's enthusiasm for his experimental research?
Strickland is playing with his patients' lives for pride and glory. Now that, sir, is unethical.
Are you thinking about something in particular?
Harvey Fiddick needs delicate surgery. I believe we should stick to the usual procedure, but my young colleague obviously disagrees.
Why do you wish to lead this surgery?
I strongly believe that Mr. Fiddick should not be butchered to test an unproven procedure.
Other people may say that's too conservative a point of view.
Conservative? And what are you going to say to Mr. Fiddick if he loses his arm because of the operation? Because that's what's going to happen if the surgery is a failure.
And are you not afraid that your rivalry with Strickland may be blinding you?
Rivalry? I guess you could call it that. But I will never be childish enough to let my personal feelings affect my judgment.
Since your tenure in this hospital is longer than mine, perhaps you can tell me more about this place.
Let's just say I'm tired of the carelessness around me. I have always respected the skills of Dr. Swansea, but over time his enthusiasm has become displaced.
Carelessness? Exactly what are you talking about?
We're here to save lives. The people who trust us are not volunteering for experimentation. They're here to be healed.
I don't intend to run any radical experiments, Doctor.
Even if I, as any good practitioner should, express an interest in pushing the boundaries of medical research.
Modern medical methods were created through audacity and ego. But there are rules in our line of work, and they're here to protect our patients.
I don't know what you've heard about me, but I have already proved my value as a practitioner.
I don't question your skills, Dr. Reed, but your motive. Is it money, fame, or are you truly dedicated?
And what exactly is that supposed to mean?
I served in the war just like you. But unlike you, I did not use the wounded to play the modern sorcerer.
Be careful what you insinuate, Dr. Ackroyd.
I only want you to admit you used those men to improve your theories.
This is ridiculous. My blood transfusion technique saved many lives, and you know it.
You see? That is exactly what I hate about people like you. You avoid this kind of accusation instead of facing reality.
It seems you have bad memories of your military service.
I refuse to see this industrial slaughter as scientific progress. War only reveals the worst in men.
We can at least agree on something, Dr. Ackroyd. What do you think of Dr. Tippett's opinion of your promotion, Waverly?
Tippett is a good practitioner. Maybe just a little too attached to his prestigious position at the Pembroke Hospital.
Really? That's exactly his diagnosis of you. A little too eager to get promoted? A little bit too proud?
He has the right to think so. But I deserve this promotion, and I don't consider it anything but well-earned.
Thank you for your time. We'll talk later.
My sweet girl.
Donc ça c'est bon. Et elle est où j'ai mis...
Good evening, Nurse Hawkins.
Good evening, Dr. Reed.
Goodbye, Nurse Hawkins. Good evening, Miss Howcroft. How are you tonight?
I need blood, Doctor. Warm, rich, vibrant blood.
Have you heard of any blackmailing going on within these walls?
I have no time for mortal games. My secrets are beyond their comprehension, Dr. Reed.
I'll leave you, Mistress of the Dark, to your nocturnal activities. Good evening, Mr. Elwood.
Evening, Dr. Reed.
Have you heard rumors of underhand dealings in the hospital?
If you want to know what's going on here, you better talk to Miss Jones. She knows everything. Especially what she shouldn't.
Goodbye for now, Mr. Elwood.
Damn. The pain. There again.
Perhaps I should have considered the offer from that Cadogan fellow.
Good evening, sir.
So it is true. The famous Dr. Reed has joined us. I can't think of any better news during these terrible times.
Do we know each other?
Actually, yes. We met once before, at the Rockefeller University in New York.
Dr. Tippett, yes, I remember. I was assisting Professor Carell in his research about coronary bypasses. He had nothing but praise for you.
He was also very confident about your future. And look at you now. Eminent surgeon and blood transfusion specialist.
Have you heard of any underhand dealings going on in this hospital?
I have no time for such triviality, my dear colleague. We're here to save lives.
What is the Pembroke Hospital situation? And please, speak freely.
This hospital is not exactly the best of London. I'm sure you are used to working in a better environment.
Pas de soucis, Mayuki. Enfin, ça, je vais pas tarder aussi.
It's not exactly the best situation in London either. I can't have expected this hospital to be prepared for what was to come.
Don't be misled by appearances, Dr. Reed. This hospital does not lack talented people. It just lacks hope.
What can you tell me about the staff in the hospital?
Some are really good, and others are not so good. But during this troubled period, there is no time for slander. I prefer to focus on the positive character traits.
Tell me more about cherished people, then.
Nurse Brannigan is a pearl. She is the most helpful and dedicated nurse I've ever worked with. A clever and cheerful woman.
You really seem to admire her skills.
I'll go even further. If she was a man, she would be a damn fine practitioner.
Any opinion about the management?
I don't always agree with Dr. Swansea's reserve, but I must admit he does all he can to keep this facility running during this crisis.
Ah, yes, the burden of command. I was fed up with this concept while serving as a medical officer.
Don't get me wrong. Swansea's a good administrator. I just wish he would get out of his office now and again.
Goodbye, Dr. Tippett. Good evening, sir. I'm Dr. Jonathan Reed. I'm new here.
I've already heard about you, Dr. Reed. I'm Milton Hooks, the ambulance driver for this shithole of a hospital.
That's quite a blunt introduction, Mr. Hooks.
You can call me Milton. I like to speak my mind, Dr. Reed. Perk of the job. Don't judge me, and I won't judge you.
I'm not sure I understand what you're talking about.
Well, I'm no doctor, but I'm pretty sure a gun can't be used as a surgical instrument.
You have a keen eye. I learned to shoot during the war, and have carried one ever since. Old habits die hard.
No need to explain, Dr. Reed. And if you ever need a better gun, remember, I may have something for you.
I have some good news, Milton.
What? The epidemic's over?
I retrieved your wallet, with all the money, and a certain picture.
Well, yeah, Pippa Hawkins is my girl. So what? Is it the difference of skin color that bothers you?
Not at all, Milton.
Good. Please, take this money anyway. To remind you to keep your mouth shut. Not everybody's as broad-minded as you, Dr. Reed.
Have you heard of any underhand dealings going on in this hospital?
There are a lot of secrets round here. I'm not surprised someone tried to make money from them.
What kind of secrets?
I'm not in the gossip business, Dr. Reed. If you want to know more, you better talk to Harriet Jones. She's the oldest patient here.
How is the situation around here?
You want to hear the situation is all right? It's fucking awful. We lack everything, and it's getting worse every day.
So what do you do exactly in this hospital? Apart from smuggling guns, I mean.
I've been an ambulance driver since... too long, I guess. I bring sick people here night and day. It's a dirty job, but I get it done. Most of the time.
It sounds like things have been a bit rough recently. What's happened?
Yesterday I got attacked by the patient I was bringing here. I escaped from the hospital's garden, but I lost my wallet when I was running.
You left an infected patient outside the hospital? That's incredibly dangerous.
Go there yourself if you want, but be careful, Doctor. I'd rather not bring your dead body back.
Since you're on the front line, how is the sanitary situation in this vicinity?
It's a complete disaster. It's even getting dangerous to enter some streets or buildings. Even the locals attack you.
Are you really smuggling weapons through the hospital?
And why not? I've already been attacked by patients, you know. And by gang members willing to steal my money.
But you're not defending yourself. You're selling guns to civilians.
You keep people alive your own way, Doctor. I offer them another way to protect their health.
Why do you have such a mediocre reputation among your colleagues, Milton?
Fuck them. Nobody knows the horrors I've seen since working here. This city was sick long before the epidemic, Dr. Reed.
I know it's a difficult task, but correct me if I'm wrong. Is this not the job you are paid to do?
I've seen babies left to die while their brothers were properly fed. Underage girls and boys sold to all manner of perverts.
I'm sorry, I don't know what to say.
Yeah, exactly. We lack words. So excuse me if I don't look on the bright side of life.
What's going on between you and Nurse Hawkins?
Pippa's tired. Tired of all this shit. Tired of all those corpses piling up. She's as depressed as I am.
During the war, I witnessed a few couples just like you come together in difficult circumstances. It can be very damaging.
Maybe you're right. But we support each other. And that's all that matters.
You do realize you could both get fired. Hospital staff are not meant to have intimate relationships with one another.
Come on, Dr. Reed. Do you know how many rules are broken in this hospital every day just to keep it running? There's nothing wrong with what we're doing.
I'd like to see your goods.
Wise choice, Dr. Reed. A reliable gun is what everybody needs these days.
Flu took my dear wife, Emily. I take comfort knowing we'll soon be together again.
Mr. Rainfield, that's no way to talk. You're in good hands here, and we'll be up again soon enough. Now do me a kindness and get some sleep. I'll be back round later.
Your words are kind, the blessings of an angel. You're the sweet, sweet Lady of Mercy.
Good evening, Dr. Reed. It's a pleasure to see you again. You seem surprised. Dr. Swansea has brought me up to speed concerning your recent appointment to Pembroke Hospital.
You're a the lady who saved me that night, before vanishing into thin air. I remember you from the pub with Dr. Swansea.
Indeed. Allow me to introduce myself formally this time. My name is Lady Ashbury. I remember you well, in spite of the brevity of our encounter.
Apologies.
Magnifique.
You've taken me by
On
surprise.
vient de retrouver
I'm very happy
la
to see
vampire qu'on a rencontrée.
The pleasure
hier.
is mine, Doctor.
I hope you're more disposed to answer my questions now.
You must have countless questions, but our rather urgent matter first. Swansea has explained. My cover, if you prefer, has been compromised.
Effectivement.
Dr. Swansea has commissioned me to be your agent in this matter. You could start by explaining what's amiss.
These past insufferable weeks, I've been the victim of extortion. I've made a first payment, but the blackmailer grows greedy. I must refuse his most recent demands.
Please continue. Every detail is essential. I'm your man.
My embarrassment in this matter is eclipsed only by my shame at having put the hospital at risk. The threat from our anonymous scoundrel is clear. A list of dates. My visits coinciding with the dates of suspicious patient deaths due to massive blood loss.
I'll take care of it. Do you know where I should start?
If that was the case, I'd settle the matter myself. You could talk to our local gossip, Harriet Jones. Not a pin drops here without her hearing about it.
I'll meet that woman now.
My life, as others know, is in your hands, Dr. Reed. I'm sure of your discretion,
encore 2 heures.
but I
Encore
do
2 heures.
fear your powers of persuasion will be put to the test. When this is resolved, I'll be your obligé. I'll answer all questions in regards of your condition.
Bien aimable de votre part, mademoiselle.
Is our little mystery closer to being solved, Dr. Reed?
I think of nothing else, my lady.
My situation is delicate, and it occupies all my thoughts. The blackmail must stop. I need assurance.
Ok, elle va plus rien nous dire tant qu'on n'a pas résolu son enquête, la madame. Donc, c'est pas ça. Elle est où notre... Mais ça on le sait, merci. Ok. Lui, il faut que je le soigne aussi.
no decency. All liars and thieves.
Ok. Donc elle était en isolement. Elle était en isolement toute seule. Royal Garden Halters. Clydefish présente Dory Fletch. Saffron. Ok. Hop. Est-ce qu'il y a d'autres choses? Ça n'a pas l'air ok. On va aller parler à la petite dame.
What?
Oh, il a dit
What?
4 heures.
What is this? Who are you? Get out of my room.
There's no need for alarm, madam. I'm Dr. Reed, the new surgeon.
Preposterous. Dr. Reed, you say? I don't want some bumbling intern. Where's Dr. Swansea?
Oh, hello.
Please, calm down, madam. I assure you that I am highly qualified. I'm just back from war duty.
How brave. Threatening an old defenseless woman. You know how long I've been a patient here? You've picked the wrong fight. I'm Harriet Jones.
Harriet Jones? Indeed. I've been meaning to have a chat with you. You know what goes on here better than any other patient, I gather.
Oh, better than any patient, nurse or doctor. I've seen so many vile undertakings.
I heard there have been some despicable goings-on. Was there a case of blackmail?
Blackmail? Wait. You're investigating something. This isn't a social call. One of those incompetent cunts slit a poor sod's vein.
I assure you, madam, this is not an investigation into a possible medical error.
Debauchery, then? Nurses Crane, Hawkins, Brannigans, whores, all of them. They can't keep their legs shut. I've seen them scratching slutty sores.
Really? Well, if you have irrefutable proof, I'll not have the staff behaving in such a manner here.
This is your business, Doctor, not mine. But I swear one of the nurses is cavorting with some man on hospital hours.
Thank you for your time, Miss Jones. You've given me something to go on. See you on the next round.
Alors, trouver l'infirmière Pipa, trouver l'infirmière Dorothy Crane et Bagan.
The patients and staff might know something. I'll start my investigation with them.
J'ai ma petite puce que je dois aller bientôt récupérer. Mais il est vraiment très passionnant ce jeu, j'aime beaucoup, beaucoup, beaucoup. C'est quoi? Ah, vous vous figez le sang dans les veines de vos proies, la laissant sans défense. Bouclier de sang. Créez une barrière invisible qui absorbe les dégâts directs jusqu'à sa destruction ou disparition. C'est pas mal ça. C'est bon du coup. 600. sauvegarde, je suppose. Donc, hop. Parfait. Hop, on va quitter. Voilà, voilà. Donc c'est tout pour aujourd'hui. Je vois si je peux, j'essaierai peut-être de streamer dimanche après-midi, sinon ça sera pour la semaine prochaine. Voilà, je vous remercie d'avoir passé ce temps avec moi, c'était fort sympathique. J'aime beaucoup, j'ai hâte de pouvoir continuer à avancer dans cette histoire et découvrir la suite avec vous. Je vous fais des gros bisous. J'essaye, voilà. Comme je disais Yuki, j'essaye dimanche après-midi si le papa peut s'occuper des enfants. Parce que bon, c'est un jeu que je veux pas trop jouer avec eux. Mais du coup, après, voilà, à voir si. Sinon, ça sera pour la semaine prochaine, sûrement lundi après-midi. Voilà, voilà. Donc, je vous fais des gros bisous et je vous dis demain soir, du coup, pour le stream. Sur mon histoire, enfin pour mes histoires, du coup pour mon roman, et un peu de chapter aussi. Du coup, on continuera chapter aussi. Voilà, je vous fais des gros bisous. J'aimerais bien que tu me rendes ma souris. Merci.